The failure of Karen feminists and the erosion of masculinity in America. Feminism, once a movement aimed at achieving equality and rights for women, has seen a dramatic shift in recent decades. What was once a push for equal opportunities in the workplace, political representation, and social standing has, in some circles, devolved into an ideological battleground that has led to significant unintended consequences. The rise of what some call Karen feminism is a symptom of this evolution, a phenomenon where a vocal minority uses the platform of feminism not to uplift women, but to assert dominance over men and dictate social norms. The rise of Karen feminism. Karen feminism refers to a subset of modern feminist thought that is characterized by its aggressive stance against traditional masculinity and its attempts to control social behavior under the guise of advocating for women's rights. This form of feminism often portrays men as inherently oppressive and dismisses any expression of masculinity as toxic. It is a feminism that is less concerned with genuine equality and more interested in social engineering. These feminists, often referred to as Karens, wield social media platforms to amplify their outrage and dictate what is socially acceptable. They have made headlines for calling out and canceling men for perceived slights and microaggressions, often without considering context or intent. In their crusade, they have created a culture of fear where men are often hesitant to engage in natural, healthy behaviors for fear of being labeled as oppressive or sexist. The softening of American men. The impact of this radical feminist wave has been profound, especially on American men. Boys and young men are increasingly being taught that traditional male traits, strength, assertiveness, independence, are outdated and problematic. As a result, we are seeing a generation of men who are more passive, unsure of their place in society, and hesitant to embrace their natural instincts. This softening of American men has several implications. Psychological impact. Men are facing an identity crisis. In attempting to conform to these new standards, many feel disconnected from their natural roles as protectors and providers. The suppression of these instincts has led to increased rates of anxiety, depression, and a sense of purposelessness. Social implications. The reluctance to express traditional masculinity has led to a decrease in male leadership across various spheres of society. Men are stepping back, not wanting to be seen as domineering or oppressive. This vacuum of leadership has broader implications for communities, organizations, and families. Relationship dynamics. In romantic relationships, the dynamics have shifted. The traditional roles that provided balance and mutual respect are being replaced by confusion and role reversals. Many women express frustration with the lack of decisiveness and leadership in their male partners, leading to a breakdown in communication and satisfaction. The end of masculinity? While some argue that the decline of traditional masculinity is a step forward, it is essential to consider what is being lost in this process. The erosion of masculine values such as strength, courage, and resilience does not create a more equitable society. Rather, it creates a vacuum where no one benefits. Men feel emasculated, women feel unsupported, and society loses the balance that has long been its foundation. However, it's worth noting that the end of traditional masculinity as we know it might not be the solution radical feminists envision. Instead of a society where femininity replaces masculinity, there is a growing backlash. As more men feel cornered by these new social norms, they are beginning to push back, seeking to reclaim a sense of pride in their masculinity. The pushback, reclaiming masculinity. While modern feminism, particularly in its Karen manifestation, has contributed to a perceived decline in traditional masculinity, there is a growing movement of men who are pushing back. They reject the notion that masculinity is inherently toxic and are reclaiming traits like strength, honor, and leadership. This movement, sometimes referred to as the manosphere, promotes the idea that it is okay to be masculine and that society benefits when men embrace their natural roles. Men's groups, podcasts, and online forums are filled with discussions about what it means to be a man in today's world. These communities argue that masculinity should not be shamed, but celebrated as a complementary force to femininity. They are advocating for a return to a more balanced understanding of gender roles, one where both masculine and feminine traits are respected and valued. The future. Finding a new balance. The future lies not in the eradication of masculinity or the dominance of femininity, but in finding a new balance where both can coexist and thrive. It's time to move past the antagonism and towards a more inclusive conversation about gender roles. We must recognize the value that both masculinity and femininity bring to the table and understand that one cannot truly thrive without the other. The failure of Karen feminism lies in its inability to see this balance. By attempting to suppress masculinity, it inadvertently diminishes the complementary strengths of both genders. Instead of making American men soft, it is time to encourage both men and women to embrace their authentic selves, contributing to a society where all forms of strength are recognized and valued. In the end, society doesn't need less masculinity or more femininity. It needs a renewed appreciation for the unique contributions of both.